Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the merchant ship UES Horizon, watching the stars drift by through the main viewing screen. For 15 years he had traveled these same trade routes, carrying goods between human colonies and alien worlds. It was peaceful work, the kind that let a man sleep well at night. His navigator, Lieutenant Lisa Grant, looked up from her console. "We're getting a priority message from Federation Command, Captain." Jake nodded. "Put it through." The image of Admiral Vextai, a tall Valdrani with silver skin and ancient eyes, appeared on the screen. The Valdrani had been part of the Galactic Federation longer than any other species. Their word carried weight across the galaxy. "All Federation vessels are to receive this message," the Admiral said. "The Kethvar Empire has issued an ultimatum to the Federation Council. They demand control of the Centauri sector, including all human colonies in that region. The Council has decided to comply with their demands to maintain galactic peace." Jake felt his blood turn cold. 3 human colonies were in the Centauri sector: New Shanghai, Kepler Prime, and Terra Nova. Nearly 2 million humans called those worlds home. "All human vessels are ordered to assist in the evacuation of the colonies," Admiral Vextai continued. "The Kethvar will take control in 30 days. The message ended. Jake stared at the empty screen, his hands gripping the arms of his command chair. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Ryan Torres had heard the broadcast too. His face appeared on Jake's personal communication screen. "Captain, did they just give away our colonies?" Ryan asked. "That's what it sounds like," Jake replied. "Lisa." Grant turned in her chair. "Sir, I'm getting reports from other human ships. They're all receiving the same orders." Jake activated his ship's communication system and contacted other human captains in the area. The responses were all the same: shock, anger, disbelief. The Federation had decided that human lives were an acceptable price for peace with the Kethvar. But then something unexpected happened. A new message came through on a secure human military channel that Jake didn't even know existed on his merchant vessel. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Susan Clark, the highest-ranking human officer in Federation space. She looked tired but determined. "To all human ships and colonies," she said, "the Federation Council has made their decision. They have decided that our people are expendable. We reject this decision. All humans are ordered to return to human space immediately. Leave nothing behind that the aliens can use." Jake had never heard Admiral Clark speak like this before. There was something in her voice that made the hair on his neck stand up. "Send this message to Earth Command, Admiral," Clark continued. "The children are coming home." The transmission ended. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa Grant was already plotting a course back to Earth. Ryan Torres was studying his engineering displays with new interest. "Captain," Lisa said, "I'm picking up similar transmissions from every human ship in this sector. They're all heading home." Jake activated the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We're returning to Earth immediately. Secure all cargo and prepare for extended travel." As the horizon turned toward human space, Jake watched other human ships doing the same thing. Merchant vessels, passenger, transports, even the small diplomatic ships were all heading in the same direction. But something else was happening that Jake didn't understand. Ships were appearing on his sensors that he had never seen before. They looked human, but they didn't match any design he knew. These vessels moved with purpose, escorting the merchant ships and transports. "Lisa, are you seeing these ships?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. They're not broadcasting identification codes that I recognize, but they're definitely human." Ryan's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, I'm detecting some very unusual energy signatures from those escort ships. They're running power systems I've never seen before." Jake made a decision that would have seemed impossible a few hours earlier. He opened a communication channel to one of the mysterious escort vessels. "Unknown human vessel. This is Captain Morrison of the UES Horizon. Please identify yourself." The response came immediately. A woman's voice, calm and professional. "Captain Morrison, this is Commander Amy Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Force. We're here to make sure you get home safely." "Terran Defense Force?" Jake said. "I've never heard of that organization. You weren't supposed to. Commander Rodriguez replied. But things have changed now. Welcome to the new reality, Captain. As the human fleet traveled toward Earth, Jake noticed that alien ships were not following them. In fact, alien vessels seemed to be avoiding the human convoy entirely. When Jake asked Commander Rodriguez about this, her answer was simple. Word travels fast in space, Captain. The aliens are starting to understand that something has changed. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, Jake learned things about humanity that shocked him. The merchant ships and diplomatic vessels he had known were only part of the story. There were other ships, other facilities, other organizations that had been hidden for decades. When they finally reached Earth, Jake saw something that took his breath away. The planet was surrounded by structures he had never seen before. Massive orbital platforms were rising from hidden locations. Ships unlike anything in the Federation databases were taking position around the solar system. Admiral Clark's voice came over the communication system again. This time she was speaking to the entire human fleet. For 200 years, we have been members of the Galactic Federation. We followed their rules, respected their customs, and trusted them to protect us. Today, they showed us what that trust was worth. Jake listened as the Admiral continued. They decided our colonies were acceptable losses. They decided our children were expendable. They made a mistake. The view on Jake's screen changed to show the surface of Earth. In locations around the planet, massive doors were opening in the ground. Things were rising from underground facilities that had been sealed for generations. The Federation never asked about our past, Admiral Clark said. They assumed we were always the peaceful traders and diplomats they knew. They never wondered what we did before we joined their organization. Jake realized that everything he thought he knew about humanity was wrong. The peaceful merchants, the careful diplomats, the traders who avoided conflict. That was just one face of human civilization. We're going to remind the galaxy of something they forgot, Admiral Clark concluded. Nobody threatens human families. Nobody. As Jake watched the transformation of Earth from a peaceful world into something that looked like a fortress, he understood that the galaxy was about to learn something it had forgotten about humanity. They were about to remember why humans had survived long enough to reach the stars in the first place. Dr. Martin Hayes walked through corridors that had been sealed for 200 years. The air was stale and cold, but the lights still worked. Emergency power systems had kept the basic functions running all this time, waiting for the day when humanity might need them again. That day had come. Martin was the director of the Terran Defense Initiative, a position that officially didn't exist. For 2 centuries, he and others like him had maintained facilities that the Galactic Federation knew nothing about. While humanity traded peacefully with aliens, these hidden installations had continued their work. The elevator descended deep beneath the surface of Earth. Level after level passed by, each one containing equipment and weapons that violated a dozen Federation treaties. Not that humanity cared about those treaties anymore. Status report, Martin said to his assistant, Dr. Karen Webb. All primary systems are coming online, Karen replied, reading from a tablet. The Sol defense grid will be fully operational in 6 hours. Mars Command confirms that the war foundries are beginning production. Luna Base reports that the deep space sensors are active. Martin nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plans that had been made decades ago. Plans for a day they had hoped would never come. On Mars, General Paul Mitchell stood in the control room of Manufacturing Complex 7. Through the reinforced windows, he could see automated factories that had been dormant for generations springing to life. Robotic systems moved with precision, building weapons and ships from designs that existed nowhere in Federation databases. The first new warship was already taking shape in Construction Bay Alpha. The UES Retribution was unlike any vessel that had ever served in the human merchant fleet. It was designed for one purpose, destroying everything that threatened humanity. General, we're receiving production requests from all sectors, his aide, Colonel Lisa Park, reported. Fleet Command wants 50 Titan-class battleships, 200 Wraith-class destroyers, and 1,000 fighter craft. Tell them they'll have it all within the week, Paul replied. These factories have been waiting 2 centuries to build a real fleet. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez was aboard the orbital platform known as Guardian Station. The massive structure had risen from concealed positions around Earth, revealing weapon systems that shouldn't have been possible with known technology. Amy watched as technicians activated the Sol defense grid, energy weapons capable of destroying entire fleets powered up for the first time in 200 years. Gravitational manipulation systems came online, ready to turn space itself into a weapon. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from deep space monitoring stations," her communications officer said. "Long-range sensors show Kethvar fleets moving toward human colonies." "Perfect," Amy said. "They'll get to see our new capabilities firsthand." On the surface of Earth, President Nancy Coleman met with her military advisors in a room that didn't appear on any government building plans. The war room had been constructed in secret, designed to coordinate humanity's response to existential threats. "How long before we're ready?" she asked Admiral Clark. "The fleet will be operational within days," Susan replied. "Our stealth ships are already in position around the colonies. The moment the Kethvar arrive, they'll discover that peaceful humanity was just an act. The transformation was happening across all of human space. On colony worlds that had seemed defenseless, hidden weapon systems emerged from underground bunkers. Civilian administrators revealed themselves as military officers. Merchant ships docked at hidden facilities to receive weapons that turned them into warships. Captain Jake Morrison received orders that shocked him to his core. The UES Horizon was to report to Fleet Dock 7 for retrofit. When he arrived, he found a facility that didn't officially exist, staffed by people who weren't supposed to be there. "Captain Morrison," said Commander Tony Parker, the dock supervisor. "Welcome to the Real Human Space Program." Jake watched in amazement as his peaceful merchant vessel was equipped with weapon systems that defied everything he knew about physics. Quantum disruptors that could tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level. Shield generators that could deflect any known weapon. Engines that could move the ship faster than anything in the Galactic Fleet. "How is this possible?" Jake asked. "We never stopped innovating," Tony replied. "While the Federation stagnated in their peaceful prosperity, humanity kept developing new technology. We just kept it secret." The retrofit took 3 days. When it was finished, the Horizon looked like the same merchant ship on the outside, but now it carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Lisa Grant, Jake's former navigator, received her own shocking news. She was being transferred to command of a new type of vessel, a stealth frigate called the UES Shadow. Ships that could become invisible to any sensor, move through space undetected, and strike without warning. "I'm a navigator," Lisa protested. "I don't know how to command a warship." "You know more than you think," said Admiral Clark. "We've been watching all of you for years. Every merchant captain, every navigator, every engineer has been evaluated for military potential. You're all more capable than you realize." Ryan Torres found himself assigned as chief engineer on a Titan-class battleship. The massive vessel dwarfed anything he had ever seen. Its power systems could provide energy to an entire planet. Its weapons could crack moons in half. "This is impossible," Ryan said, as he studied the ship's specifications. "These power levels violate basic physics." His new captain, Commander Sam Turner, smiled. "That's what the aliens think too. They're about to learn that human science didn't stop advancing just because we joined their federation." Across human space, the same scene was playing out. Peaceful. Colonies were revealing themselves as military bases. Civilian populations were demonstrating combat training they weren't supposed to have. Merchant vessels were transforming into warships that belonged in no known fleet. The Kethvar had made a simple calculation. Humanity was weak, peaceful, and technologically inferior. They had no significant military forces. Conquering human colonies would be easy. They were about to learn that they had misunderstood everything about humanity. Dr. Hayes stood in the primary control room of the Terran Defense Initiative, watching displays that showed humanity's true military strength coming online. 2 centuries of hidden preparation were finally bearing fruit. "Sir," Karen Webb reported, "we're receiving confirmation from all sectors. The arsenal is fully awakened. Human space is now defended by the most advanced military force in the galaxy." Martin smiled grimly. Good. Let's see how the Kethvar like dealing with the real humanity. The transformation was complete. The peaceful traders and diplomats that the galaxy knew were still there, but they were no longer humanity's only face. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was armed with 2 centuries of accumulated military technology. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when someone threatened humanity's children. War Prime Thekvor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fist, as the Kethvar 7th Fleet approached the human colony of Kepler Prime. The massive Kethvar warrior felt confidence surge through his battle-scarred body. This would be easy. Status report, he growled to his tactical officer. The human colony appears defenseless, War Prime. No orbital weapons platforms, no patrol ships, no signs of military resistance. The planet seems to have been abandoned. Thekvor smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The cowards ran away. Begin landing operations. We will claim this world for the Empire. What Thekvor didn't know was that Captain Lisa Grant was watching his fleet from the bridge of the UES Shadow, positioned less than a kilometer away from his flagship. Her ship was completely invisible to Kethvar sensors, using technology that the Federation had never seen. All Shadow Squadron ships. Report status. Lisa whispered into her communication system. Shadow 2. Ready. Shadow 3. Ready. Shadow 4. Ready. 12 human stealth frigates surrounded the Kethvar fleet. The aliens had no idea they were there. Back on Earth, Admiral Clark watched the tactical display in the war room. The Kethvar fleet was positioned exactly where human strategists had predicted they would be. Give Captain Grant permission to engage, Admiral Clark said. The order was transmitted instantly to the Shadow Squadron. Lisa Grant looked at her crew. They were all former merchant officers, like herself. But they had trained for this moment their entire lives, even if they hadn't known it. All ships begin attack pattern Delta 7. Show them what happens when you threaten human families. The first indication Thekvor had that something was wrong was when the ship next to his flagship simply disappeared. Not destroyed in an explosion, not damaged by weapon fire. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone. What happened to the Bone Crusher? He demanded. His tactical officer stared at his displays in confusion. Unknown, War Prime, the ship just vanished from our sensors. Then another ship disappeared, and another. In the span of 30 seconds, 6 Kethvar vessels had been erased from existence without any sign of what was attacking them. Emergency. Maneuvers, Thekvor shouted. All ships evasive action. But the Kethvar ships were too slow and too large. They had been designed to fight other conventional fleets, not ghosts that appeared from nowhere. Captain Lisa Grant watched as her weapons, Officer Lieutenant Brian Kelly, targeted the next Kethvar vessel. The quantum disruptors on the Shadow were unlike any weapon in known space. They didn't just destroy ships, they unmade them at the atomic level. Target locked, Brian reported. Fire. The Kethvar cruiser Savage Strike simply stopped existing. Its atoms were torn apart and scattered into space, leaving nothing but empty vacuum where a 2-kilometer warship had been. On his flagship, War Prime Thekvor finally understood what was happening. The humans hadn't fled. They were here attacking his fleet with weapons that shouldn't exist. Open communications to all human forces, he commanded. I demand to speak with your commander. The response came immediately. A human female's voice, calm and professional. This is Captain Grant of the Terran Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Leave now or be destroyed. Thekvor's rage exploded. Human cowards, show yourselves and fight with honor. We are fighting, Captain Grant replied. You're just losing. 3 more Kethvar ships vanished from existence. The mighty 7th Fleet, which had conquered a dozen worlds, was being systematically erased by an enemy they couldn't see or fight. All ships retreat, Thekvor ordered. Emergency jump to hyperspace. But human technology had another surprise. As the Kethvar ships tried to escape, they discovered that something was interfering with their hyperspace drives. Gravitational manipulation systems hidden throughout the star system made it impossible for them to leave. War Prime, our hyperspace drives are not functioning, his navigator reported. Then we fight to the death, Thekfor snarled. All ships, full weapon spread. Fire at everything. The Kethvar fleet opened fire in all directions, hoping to hit the invisible human ships. Energy beams and missile barrages filled space with deadly light. None of it touched the human vessels. The Shadow Squadron ships simply weren't where the Kethvar weapons were aimed. Captain Grant checked her tactical display. The enemy fleet was down to 8 ships from the original 25. All Shadow Squadron vessels. Prepare for final assault. Let's finish this. The remaining human ships struck simultaneously. Quantum disruptors, singularity torpedoes, and gravitational wave generators fired in perfect coordination. The last of the Kethvar fleet, including War Prime Thekfor's flagship, was erased from existence. The battle was over. It had lasted exactly 17 minutes. But Captain Grant had deliberately spared one vessel, a single Kethvar scout ship that had been hanging back from the main fleet. She opened a communication channel to its terrified pilot. "You will return to your empire," she said. "You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that humanity is no longer the peaceful species they thought they knew." The scout, ship's pilot, a young Kethvar named Vexhai, could barely speak. "What are you? You're supposed to be merchants and diplomats." "We were," Captain Grant replied. "For 200 years we traded with the galaxy, learned your languages, studied your cultures, and mapped your weaknesses. Did you really think we forgot how to fight?" She paused, letting that sink in. "Go home, Vexhai. Tell your war council that the Kepler system is now a graveyard. Tell them what happens when someone threatens human children." The scout ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its message of terror back to the Kethvar Empire. In the war room on Earth, Admiral Clark watched the tactical display clear as the last enemy contact disappeared. General Kevin Brooks, commander of humanity's 1st Expeditionary Force, stood beside her. "First blood to us," Kevin said. "But they'll send a bigger fleet next time." "Good," Admiral Clark replied. "We want them to send their entire military. It's time the galaxy learned what we've been hiding." President Coleman activated the Galactic Communication Network. Her message would be broadcast to every Federation world, every alien government, every species that had voted to sacrifice human colonies. "To the governments of the galaxy," she said. "For 200 years, we have been your merchants and diplomats. We have followed your laws, respected your customs, and trusted your protection. Today, you showed us what that trust was worth." The message continued as images of the destroyed Kethvar fleet filled screens across the galaxy. "You decided our colonies were acceptable losses. You decided our children were expendable. You made a mistake, a very serious mistake." In Federation Council chambers across the galaxy, alien politicians watched in shocked silence as they realized that their understanding of humanity had been completely wrong. "We are no longer the peaceful species you thought you knew," President Coleman concluded. "Attack our people again, and we will remind the entire galaxy why humans survived long enough to reach the stars." The message ended. Across the galaxy, alien governments began emergency sessions to discuss what they had just witnessed. The peaceful humans had military technology that surpassed anything in known space. But this was only the beginning. Humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing for this day, and they had plans that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was very, very angry. The news of the 7th Fleet's destruction reached the Kethvar homeworld 3 days later. War Council Prime Gethmore, supreme military leader of the Kethvar Empire, listened to the terrified scout's report with growing rage. "You're telling me that 25 ships of the line were destroyed by an enemy we couldn't see?" he snarled. Scout pilot Vexhai trembled as he answered. "Yes, War Council Prime. The humans have weapons that unmake ships. They appear from nowhere and strike without warning. Our sensors couldn't detect them." Gethmore slammed his massive fist on the command table. "Impossible. Humans are weak traders. They have no military technology worth mentioning." "War Council," Prime, I saw it with my own eyes. They're not what we thought they were. But Gethmore's pride was wounded. The HFY Empire had conquered dozens of worlds through overwhelming force. No species had ever defeated them in open battle. He would not accept that peaceful humans could destroy his fleet. Mobilize the Grand Fleet, he ordered. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. We will crush these humans and show the galaxy that the HFY Empire cannot be challenged. Within days, 300 HFY warships were moving toward human space. It was the largest military force ever assembled by the Empire. Massive dreadnoughts, each one capable of destroying cities, led the formation. Thousands of fighters swarmed around the capital ships. The HFY were bringing everything they had. Admiral Tony Parker stood on the bridge of the UES Nemesis, watching the approaching enemy fleet on his tactical displays. The Nemesis was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, a vessel that existed in no Federation database and violated several laws of physics. Status report, Tony said to his tactical officer, Commander Rachel Stone. Enemy fleet consists of 300 ships, Admiral. They're bringing dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, and support vessels. Estimated arrival at the outer system in 6 hours. Tony smiled grimly. Perfect. Signal the fleet. It's time to show them what human war machines can really do. The human response force was much smaller than the HFY Armada. Only 50 ships formed the defensive line. But these were not the merchant vessels the galaxy knew. These were humanity's true warships, built from technology that had been developing in secret for 2 centuries. Captain Ryan Torres, now commanding the UES Vengeance, studied his ship's capabilities with amazement. The Vengeance was a Titan-class battleship designed to fight entire fleets single-handedly. Its weapons could crack planets. Its shields could withstand the explosion of a star. All stations report readiness, Ryan commanded. Quantum tunneling drive, ready. Singularity weapons armed and ready. Temporal compression field, online. Shield matrix, at full power. Ryan had been an engineer on a peaceful merchant ship less than a month ago. Now he commanded a vessel that could destroy civilizations. The HFY fleet entered the outer reaches of human space with arrogant confidence. War Council Prime Gethmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Breaker, certain that sheer numbers would overwhelm any human resistance. Begin the attack, he ordered. Show these humans the power of the Empire. The first indication that something was wrong came when half of his fleet simply disappeared. Not destroyed, disappeared. 3-dimensional space twisted around 150 HFY ships and folded them into quantum tunnels that deposited them directly into the nearest star. The ships had no time to react, no chance to defend themselves. They were simply there one moment and gone the next. What happened to Alpha Squadron? Gethmore demanded. His tactical officers stared at displays that made no sense. Unknown, War Council, Prime. They appear to have been transported directly into the star. That's impossible. But the impossible was only beginning. The human ships that had seemed so outnumbered were revealing capabilities that defied everything the HFY knew about warfare. Captain Sam Turner, commanding the UES destroyer, activated his ship's temporal compression field. From his perspective, the HFY ships began moving in slow motion. Their energy weapons fired at normal speed, but to Turner's accelerated time frame, the enemy beams crawled through space like lazy lightning. The destroyer moved through the HFY formation like a ghost, its weapons firing with perfect precision. Enemy ships exploded in slow motion as quantum disruptors tore them apart at the molecular level. Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Davis watched the space battle from the bridge of the UES Guardian. Her ship was different from the others. It was designed to deploy ground forces. But these weren't ordinary soldiers. Prepare the drop pods, she ordered. Target the HFY command ships. Within minutes, human soldiers in powered armor were boarding enemy vessels. Each human warrior was as dangerous as an entire alien squad. Their armor made them faster, stronger, and more resilient than any biological life form. Their weapons could punch through tank armor. War Council Prime Gethmore watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans were using technology that shouldn't exist. Ships that could manipulate time itself. Weapons that created miniature black holes. Soldiers that fought like machines. All ships emergency retreat, he commanded. But the human fleet wasn't finished with them. Admiral Parker activated a weapon system that had been theoretical until yesterday, the Stellar Lance. The device focused the energy output of the system's star into a coherent beam that stretched across millions of kilometers. The beam swept through the retreating Kethvar fleet like a sword through paper. Massive dreadnoughts that had conquered worlds were vaporized instantly. Smaller ships simply ceased to exist. In less than 1 hour, the grand fleet of the Kethvar Empire, 300 ships and 1 million warriors, had been reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas. Only one ship survived. Gethmore's flagship, the World Breaker, badly damaged and drifting powerless. Admiral Parker opened a communication channel to the crippled vessel. War Council Prime Gethmore, Tony said calmly. I am Admiral Parker of the Terran Defense Force. You have attacked human space twice now. There will not be a third time. Gethmore could barely speak through his injuries. What are you? Humans are supposed to be peaceful. We were peaceful, Admiral Parker replied. For 200 years we traded with your people, learned your languages, studied your military tactics. Did you think we were just playing games? The Admiral paused, letting the alien absorb what he was hearing. Every trade mission was a scouting expedition. Every diplomatic meeting was an intelligence-gathering operation. Every cultural exchange was an opportunity to study your weaknesses. We spent 2 centuries preparing for the day someone would threaten our families. Gethmore realized the horrible truth. Humanity hadn't been passive members of the galactic community. They had been studying everyone, learning everything, preparing for war while maintaining the appearance of peace. Your ship will be allowed to return to your homeworld, Admiral Parker continued. You will tell your people what happened here. You will tell them that the Kethvar Empire is finished. Any world that harbors your military will be visited by human ships. You can't destroy an entire empire. Watch us. The communication ended. The World Breaker limped away toward Kethvar space, carrying its message of complete defeat. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the UES Horizon in its new configuration as a warship, watched the last enemy vessel disappear into hyperspace. The transformation of his peaceful merchant ship into an instrument of war still amazed him. Signal from Fleet Command, his communications officer reported. Admiral Clark wants to speak with all ship commanders. Admiral Clark's image appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. Excellent work, everyone. The Kethvar threat has been eliminated. But our mission is just beginning. She paused, looking directly at the camera. The galaxy needs to understand that the old order is finished. No longer will human lives be considered acceptable losses. No longer will our colonies be traded away for someone else's peace. The Admiral's expression grew cold. We're going to visit every species that voted to sacrifice our people. We're going to teach them what happens when you threaten human children. Across the galaxy, alien governments were receiving reports of the Kethvar fleet's destruction. The peaceful humans had revealed themselves to be the most dangerous military force in known space. But humanity wasn't finished demonstrating their capabilities. The galaxy was about to learn that the merchants and diplomats they had known for 2 centuries were just one face of a species that had spent that entire time preparing for war. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and it intended to reshape the galaxy according to human terms. The Valdrani High Council had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their ancient wisdom had guided countless civilizations through wars, famines, and disasters. They considered themselves the natural leaders of galactic society, the wise elders who made difficult decisions for the greater good. Councillor Veltar, eldest of the Valdrani and chairman of the Federation Council, stood in his private chambers overlooking the capital city of Valdrith Prime. The silver-skinned alien had lived for 8 centuries and had never seen anything like what was happening now. The humans are requesting a meeting, his aide informed him. They say they want to discuss the new galactic order. Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. New galactic order? They destroyed one minor empire and think they can dictate terms to species that were ruling star systems when their world was still cooling from its formation. Shall I tell them we're busy with more important matters? No, Veltar said after a moment. Let's hear what the children have to say. It might be amusing. What Veltar didn't know was that Commander Jake Morrison was already in the Valdrani system, watching the ancient homeworld through the sensors of his invisible ship. The UES Horizon had become something far more dangerous than a merchant vessel. Captain, we're detecting the Valdrani Defense Fleet, reported Lieutenant Kevin Ross, his new tactical officer. 27 ships, including their flagship, the Eternal Wisdom. Jake studied the tactical display. The Valdrani ships were impressive by galactic standards, equipped with energy shields and plasma weapons that had protected their empire for millennia. They would have been a serious threat to any conventional fleet. Unfortunately for them, humanity no longer fielded conventional fleets. Signal from Admiral Clark, his communications officer announced. Operation Shattered Crown is authorized to begin. Jake activated his ship's communication system. All human vessels, this is Horizon Actual. Begin demonstration protocol. Let's teach these ancient fools about the new reality. The first thing that happened was that Valdrith Prime's 3 moons disappeared. Not destroyed in explosions, they simply stopped existing. Gravitational manipulation technology unmade them at the atomic level, then rearranged their constituent matter into a message that could be seen from the planet's surface. The words, "Remember this day," appeared in the space where the moons had been, written in letters 1,000 kilometers tall. Each word was composed of billions of tons of matter that had once been natural satellites. On the surface of Valdrith Prime, panic swept through the population. Their moons, which had hung in the sky for millions of years, were gone. In their place was a message from an enemy they couldn't see. Counselor Veltar stared through his window at the impossible sight. "How is this possible?" he whispered. His question was answered when Captain Sam Turner materialized his ship, the UES Retribution, directly above the Valdrani capital. The massive human warship hung in the sky like a dark promise of destruction. "Valdrani High Council," came the voice of Captain Turner over planetary communication systems. "You voted to sacrifice human colonies for your peace. That was a mistake." The Valdrani Defense Fleet immediately moved to attack the single human ship. 27 vessels armed with the most advanced weapons in Valdrani space opened fire simultaneously. None of their weapons reached the Retribution. Energy beams and plasma bolts simply stopped existing when they came within range of the human ship. The Retribution's defensive systems were so advanced that enemy weapons ceased to function in its presence. Captain Turner's response was swift and surgical. Quantum disruptors reached out and touched each Valdrani ship in turn. The proud vessels of an ancient empire were unmade in seconds, their atoms scattered to space. "Your military no longer exists," Captain Turner announced. "Your moons no longer exist. Your orbital installations no longer exist. But your people are still alive. Remember that when you make your next decision about human lives." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Human fleets appeared at the homeworlds of every species that had voted to sacrifice human colonies. The demonstrations of power were swift, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. The Zarathi Republic, famous for their military academies and tactical brilliance, watched their entire space navy disappear in 12 minutes. Captain Lisa Grant, now commanding a squadron of Wraith-class destroyers, moved through their formations like a ghost, erasing ships from existence with weapons that violated known physics. "This is impossible," Admiral Zorketha transmitted as his flagship was the last vessel remaining. "Our tactics are studied throughout the galaxy. Our strategies have never been defeated." "Your strategies are 200 years old," Captain Grant replied. "We've been studying them the entire time. Did you think we were just buying your textbooks for fun?" The hegemony of Kree, known for their impregnable fortress worlds, discovered that their planetary shields meant nothing to weapons that could manipulate space and time. Commander Tony Parker deployed gravitational wave generators that turned the planet's own mass against its defenses. Within hours, the political landscape of the galaxy had been completely rewritten. Ancient civilizations that had considered themselves untouchable discovered that they were helpless against human technology, but the most shocking demonstration was yet to come. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, now Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, stood in the primary control room of Project Stellar Move. The facility, hidden in the asteroid belt around Earth's sun, contained humanity's most advanced gravitational manipulation systems. "All stations report ready," she announced to the technicians around her. "Initiate stellar relocation protocol." What happened next would be remembered as the day humanity broke the laws of physics in front of the entire galaxy. The star HD 164595, a yellow dwarf located 47 light-years from Earth, began to move. Gravitational forces that shouldn't have been possible to generate slowly pushed the star and its entire solar system out of their natural orbit. Over the course of 6 hours, watched by every telescope and sensor array in the galaxy, humanity moved an entire star system to the edge of Federation space. The relocated star now served as a border marker, a permanent reminder of human capabilities. "Attention, galactic community," Dr. Warren broadcast across all communication networks. "Humanity has relocated the HD 164595 system to serve as our new border. Any vessel that crosses this boundary without permission will discover additional applications of our technology." The message was clear. Humanity could move stars. If they could relocate an entire solar system, what else could they do? On Earth, President Coleman addressed the galaxy from the war room. Her words were transmitted to every inhabited world, every space station, every ship in known space. "For 200 years we have been members of your Federation. We have followed your laws, respected your customs, and contributed to your prosperity. In return, you decided that our people were expendable." She paused, letting that sink in. "You voted to sacrifice our colonies because you thought we were weak. You thought we were peaceful traders who would accept any loss for the sake of galactic stability. You were wrong." Images accompanied her words. The destroyed Valdrani defense fleet, the missing moons of their homeworld, the relocated star system that now marked the edge of human space. "We are not conquerors, we do not seek empire, but we will no longer tolerate any threat to human lives. The old galactic order, where ancient species decided the fate of newer civilizations, is finished." President Coleman's expression grew cold. "Any world that harbors forces hostile to humanity will receive a visit from our fleets. Any government that votes to sacrifice human lives will discover what we do to enemies. Any species that threatens our children will learn why humans survived long enough to reach the stars." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, alien governments called emergency sessions. The peaceful humans had revealed themselves to be the most advanced military force in known space. Worse, they had demonstrated capabilities that bordered on godlike power. But humanity wasn't finished. Admiral Clark activated the next phase of the operation. "Signal all fleets," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2. It's time to establish the new order." Human ships began appearing at strategic locations throughout the galaxy, not as conquerors but as the new galactic police force. Pirates discovered that human vessels could appear from nowhere and end their activities instantly. Aggressive empires found their expansion plans blocked by ships that couldn't be defeated. The galaxy had a new sheriff, and it wasn't interested in negotiating with anyone who threatened innocent lives. Captain Jake Morrison, watching from the bridge of his transformed vessel, realized that everything had changed forever. Humanity had spent 2 centuries pretending to be peaceful merchants. Now the galaxy knew the truth. They were the descendants of a species that had fought its way to the stars through wars that would have destroyed weaker civilizations. The sleeping giant was fully awake, and it was reshaping the galaxy according to human ideals of justice and protection. The age of ancient wisdom ruling through fear was over. The age of human protection had begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council was unlike any in the organization's history. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Station, their faces showing fear, confusion, and desperate hope for a solution to the human problem. Speaker Veltar of the Valdrani called the session to order, though his usual confidence was gone. The ancient aliens' homeworld still bore the scars of humanity's demonstration. Where 3 moons had once hung in the sky, words written in reorganized matter reminded his people daily of their new reality. "We are gathered to address the human situation," Veltar began. "In the past 30 days, they have systematically demonstrated military capabilities that exceed anything in our databases. They have destroyed entire fleets, relocated star systems, and established patrol zones throughout Federation space." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the assembly. Every major military power had been visited by human ships. Every aggressive empire had been warned. Every species that had voted to sacrifice human colonies had received a personal demonstration of humanity's true capabilities. "The question before us," Veltar continued, "is how we respond to this new reality." Ambassador Kretal of the Hegemony stood to speak. His world's supposedly impregnable defenses had been bypassed as if they didn't exist. "We must find a way to negotiate with them. Perhaps we can offer reparations for the colony decision." "Reparations?" The voice came from the back of the assembly hall. All eyes turned to see a human figure walking down the central aisle. It was Dr. Elizabeth Warren, humanity's new Secretary of Interstellar Affairs. The assembled aliens fell silent as she approached the speaker's platform. No human had ever addressed the full Federation Council before. They had always worked through intermediaries and diplomatic channels. "You want to offer reparations?" Dr. Warren asked as she reached the podium. "What exactly would compensate for deciding that 2 million human lives were acceptable losses?" She looked around the assembly, meeting the eyes of representatives who had voted to abandon human colonies to the Kethvar Empire. "For 200 years, we participated in your federation as equal members. We contributed to your prosperity, shared our knowledge, and trusted your protection. When the first real test came, you decided we were expendable." The hall remained silent. Dr. Warren activated a holographic display that showed images from across the galaxy. Human ships patrolling space lanes, protecting merchant vessels from pirates. Human medical teams providing aid to disaster-stricken worlds. Human engineers helping to rebuild damaged infrastructure. "You're wondering what we want from you now," she continued. "The answer is simple. We want you to remember this lesson. We want you to understand that never again will any species be sacrificed for the convenience of others." Speaker Veltar found his voice. "Are you demanding control of the Federation?" "We're not demanding anything," Dr. Warren replied. "We're establishing facts. The old order, where ancient species made decisions about newer civilizations, is finished. The new order prioritizes the protection of innocent lives over political convenience." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed human patrol routes throughout the galaxy. "Our ships will continue to maintain peace in regions where local governments have failed. Pirates will be eliminated. Aggressive empires will be contained. Slavers will be destroyed. This is not a request for permission. This is notification of our intent." Ambassador Theknell of the Aquatic Confederation spoke up. "You're establishing a human empire." "No," Dr. Warren said firmly. "We're establishing human protection. There's a difference. We have no interest in ruling your worlds or controlling your governments. We only care about preventing innocent people from being harmed by those with superior firepower." The truth of her words was already evident across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared in dozens of systems, but they hadn't conquered anything. Instead, they had stopped conflicts, protected the weak, and eliminated threats to peaceful civilizations. Back on Earth, President Coleman met with her senior advisors in the war room. Admiral Clark was reviewing reports from human fleets stationed throughout the galaxy. "Status report, Admiral," the President requested. "All patrol zones are secure, Madam President. The Kethvar Empire has officially surrendered and is requesting terms. 3 separate pirate organizations have been eliminated completely. The Savage Claw slavers tried to raid a human convoy and no longer exist as a species." President Coleman nodded. "Any resistance from the major powers?" "None that matters," Admiral Clark replied. "The Valdrani are being very cooperative. The Idar Zorathi have requested human military advisors to help modernize their tactics. Even the hegemony of Kree is asking for protection agreements." The transformation of galactic politics was happening faster than anyone had expected. Species that had considered themselves powerful were discovering that they needed human protection from threats they couldn't handle alone. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the patrol vessel UES Guardian, received a distress call that perfectly illustrated the new reality. A Kethvar refugee ship was under attack by pirates near the former border of their empire. "This is Captain Morrison of the Terran Defense Force," he broadcast as his ship approached the battle. "Pirates vessels, you have 10 seconds to withdraw, or be destroyed." The pirate leader, a vicious alien named Scartooth, laughed over the communication system. "One human ship against 6 of us? You're insane." 5 seconds, Jake replied calmly. The pirates opened fire on the Guardian. Their weapon struck the human ship's shields and simply stopped existing. The energy beams were absorbed and redirected back at the attacking vessels. In less than 30 seconds, all 6 pirate ships had been reduced to expanding clouds of plasma. Jake opened a channel to the refugee vessel. "This is Captain Morrison. You're safe now. Do you require medical assistance?" The Kethvar captain, the same species that had once threatened human colonies, responded with obvious relief. "Thank you, Captain Morrison. We have wounded, but our medical systems are functional." "Understood. Guardian will escort you to your destination." As the human ship guided the former enemies to safety, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The Kethvar refugees trusted human protection more than they trusted their own people. The bridge of the UES Nemesis, Admiral Tony Parker received a communication from the Valdrani High Council. Speaker Veltar appeared on the main screen looking older and more tired than before. "Admiral Parker," the ancient alien began, "the High Council wishes to formally apologize for our decision regarding the human colonies. We now understand that our judgment was flawed." Tony studied the alien leader carefully. "Apology noted, Speaker Veltar. What are you really asking for?" "We would like to request a formal protection agreement with humanity. Our military forces have proven inadequate against modern threats. We need your ships to patrol our space." It was a stunning admission. The Valdrani, who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, were asking humanity for protection. "I'll forward your request to Earth Command," Tony replied. "But understand this. Human protection comes with human standards. We don't tolerate slavery, piracy, or the sacrifice of innocent lives for political gain." "We understand," Veltar said quietly. "The galaxy has changed. We must change with it." Dr. Martin Hayes stood in the primary control room of the Terran Defense Initiative, watching displays that showed humanity's true influence across the galaxy. Every major shipping lane was patrolled by human vessels. Every potential conflict zone had human peacekeepers standing by. Every aggressive empire was contained by the mere presence of ships they couldn't fight. "Status report," he requested from his aide, Dr. Karen Webb. "All systems are stable, Director. The galaxy is more peaceful now than it's been in centuries. Piracy is down 97%. Interstellar wars have dropped to 0. Trade is actually increasing because merchants know our ships are protecting the shipping lanes." Martin smiled. "And casualties?" "Minimal on our side. The galaxy's predatory species are learning to avoid conflicts they can't win. The transformation was complete. Humanity had awakened from 2 centuries of peaceful disguise to become the galaxy's protectors. Not conquerors seeking empire, but guardians ensuring that no species would face extinction at the whims of the powerful." Captain Lisa Grant, now commanding a patrol squadron in former Kethvar space, received her daily briefing from Lieutenant Kevin Ross. "Ma'am, we've got 3 distress calls, 2 pirate sightings, and a request from the Gentletide colony for medical supplies." "Standard day then," Lisa replied. "Dispatch medical supplies to Gentletide, investigate the pirate sightings, and respond to the distress calls. Let's keep the peace." As human ships spread throughout the galaxy, protecting the innocent and containing the aggressive, the other species began to understand what they had awakened. Humanity hadn't just been hiding military technology. They had been hiding their true nature. They were a species that had fought their way to the stars through wars that would have destroyed weaker civilizations. They were survivors who had learned that the only way to ensure peace was to be prepared for war. They were protectors who would never again allow the strong to prey upon the weak. The galaxy had a new order now, Not an empire built on conquest, but a